I had been saving for months. Every extra shift, every odd job, every sleepless night counted toward one goal: giving Dad a birthday he would never forget. He had spent his whole life working himself to the bone, never asking for anything. This year, I wanted to give something back, something that showed him how much I admired him. So, with trembling excitement, I announced at breakfast, "I want to take us all out for Dad's birthday dinner. There's this amazing restaurant downtown." Before I could even finish, Mom's laughter cut through me like broken glass. "You? Pay for dinner at that place? Don't embarrass yourself. You can barely afford your rent. What will you do? Wash dishes in the back to cover the bill?" Her words stung worse than a slap. Dad glanced up from his newspaper, his eyes soft with concern, but he said nothing. That silence hurt even more. I clenched my fists under the table. "I can handle it, Mom. I've been working hard." "Oh, please," she scoffed, rolling her eyes. "You've always been a dreamer. Stick to what you can actually afford. Leave the important things to adults." Her dismissal settled heavy in my chest. For a moment, I almost believed her. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was still just the failure she saw me as. But then I looked at Dad. Tired lines etched his face, his hands still rough from decades of labor. He deserved at least one night where the world treated him like a king. I swallowed the bitterness, forcing myself to smile. "Don't worry about it. I'll take care of everything," Mom snorted. But I didn't care. Deep down, I knew this birthday would change everything. Mom's mocking laughter still echoed in my mind as I walked into the marble-lined lobby of La Fontaine, the most prestigious restaurant in town. The crystal chandeliers sparkled above me, and the faint aroma of roasted garlic and fresh herbs hung in the air. This was not the kind of place I ever imagined myself walking into, certainly not the kind of place my mother believed I belonged. I hesitated at the front desk, adjusting my worn jacket. The hostess looked up, her professional smile faltering for a moment. Her eyes widened, almost in recognition, before she quickly composed herself. "Good evening, sir. Do you have a reservation?" "Yes," I said, trying to sound confident. "For Saturday night. A private dinner for 4. Under the name James." Her fingers froze on the keyboard. She glanced at her colleague, then back at me. "Of course, Mr. James," she said softly, as though she'd just confirmed something important. "We'll prepare one of our finest rooms." As I turned to leave, I caught the faint sound of whispers behind me. The hostess leaned toward the maître d', murmuring words I couldn't quite catch. His eyes flicked toward me, filled with the same strange curiosity, almost deference. A chill ran down my spine. Why were they looking at me like that? I wasn't rich. I wasn't famous. I was nobody. I walked out into the night air, clutching the confirmation slip in my hand. My heart was pounding with a mix of pride and unease. For once, I had defied Mom's cruel words. Dad would have his birthday in a place fit for royalty, and yet, deep inside, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stepped into something larger than just a dinner. The night of Dad's birthday finally arrived. I wore the best suit I owned, when I had bought secondhand and carefully pressed until every crease looked intentional. Mom eyed me with that same smirk she always carried whenever I tried to prove myself. "Well," she said, adjusting her pearls, "I hope you brought your wallet. Don't think I'll be covering the bill when they laugh you out of the restaurant." Dad shot her a sharp glance, but stayed silent. He rested a hand on my shoulder instead, giving it a gentle squeeze. "I appreciate this, son," he whispered, his voice carrying a weight I couldn't quite place. When we arrived at La Fontaine, I felt Mom stiffen beside me. The glowing chandeliers and velvet curtains were far grander than anything she had expected. She opened her mouth, ready to deliver a cutting remark, until the maître d' spotted us. "Mr. James!" he exclaimed, hurrying forward with a wide smile. "Welcome back, sir. We've been expecting you." The words froze Mom mid-step. Dad blinked in confusion. Even I stood stunned, unsure how to respond. Before I could ask what he meant, 2 waiters appeared, holding the doors open like we were royalty. "Right this way, sir. Your table is prepared." I caught Mom's expression out of the corner of my eye. Her smirk had vanished, replaced by disbelief. She opened her mouth to protest, but no words came out. Dad looked at me with a mixture of gratitude and puzzlement, as if I had pulled off some impossible miracle. And me? My heart was racing. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the poor son being mocked, I was someone else entirely. Someone with power I didn't yet understand. The maitre d' guided us through the restaurant, bowing slightly as we passed. The chandeliers sparkled above, their light reflecting in the polished silverware and crystal glasses that adorned our private table. I could feel every pair of eyes in the room following us, as though I were someone important, someone I wasn't supposed to be. Mom was the first to break the silence. She forced a laugh, sharp and brittle. "Well, isn't this amusing? They must have mistaken you for someone else. Clearly, some rich man with the same name." But her words didn't sound convincing. The waiter setting down our menus glanced up. "Oh no, ma'am. There's no mistake. Mr. James is listed as one of the owners in our system. We've been instructed to treat him with the utmost respect whenever he dines here." The air grew heavy. My chest tightened as I stared at the waiter, searching for some trace of humor, some sign that this was an elaborate prank. But his expression was deadly serious. Dad's fork clattered softly against his plate, his hand trembling. His eyes flickered between me and Mom, confusion written across his face. Mom leaned forward quickly, her smile stretched too wide. "That's ridiculous. My son? An owner? Don't be absurd." Her voice wavered. Just for a second, I studied her carefully. Beneath her forced laughter, her eyes betrayed something darker, fear, perhaps, or anger. I cleared my throat, trying to regain control. "There must be some kind of mistake," I said, though even I could hear the uncertainty in my voice. But deep down, a seed of suspicion had already been planted. If this wasn't a mistake, then what did Mom know that I didn't? The dinner began, but the air at our table was anything but warm. Dad sat across from me, his hands folded tightly in his lap, eyes lowered as though the flickering candlelight made him uneasy. He barely touched a breadbasket, and when the waiter poured his wine, he only swirled it absently, lost in thought. I tried to focus on the menu, but my eyes kept darting toward him. He looked older tonight, fragile in a way I wasn't used to seeing. Was it the shock of what the waiter had said? Or was there something more? "Dad," I asked gently, "is everything all right?" He forced a smile, the kind that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I'm fine, son. Just taking it all in." But I knew that look. It was the same one I'd seen when bills piled up on the kitchen counter, when the factory announced layoffs, when he thought no one was watching. As the courses arrived, my mind drifted back to the months that led here. Long nights delivering packages, greasy shifts at diners, saving every spare dollar. I wanted to prove myself not just to Mom, but to Dad. He had sacrificed so much for us, and I thought giving him a night like this would show him I wasn't a failure. Yet here we were, in a restaurant that somehow believed I was the owner. Even I couldn't explain it. Dad's fork scraped against his plate, pulling me back to the present. He still hadn't eaten much, and his gaze kept flickering to Mom, who sipped her wine with unusual calm, her lips curved in a faint, secretive smile. Something was wrong. Dad knew more than he was saying of that. I was certain. The laughter and chatter of the restaurant seemed distant as I excused myself from the table. I told Dad I needed the restroom, but in truth, I needed airspace to think. Every word the waiter had spoken replayed in my mind. "Mr. James is listed as one of the owners." I pushed open the heavy restroom door, letting the cool air settle over me. That's when I froze. Mom's voice drifted from one of the stalls, low and sharp, her words slicing through the quiet. "I don't care what the system says, he wasn't supposed to find out tonight. Not like this." My heart thudded against my ribs. She paused, listening, then hissed again. "Yes, I've kept it from him for years. If he thinks he's suddenly in control, everything I've built will fall apart." The blood drained from my face. She knew. She had always known. I stepped closer, my hands trembling against the tiled wall. Her voice rose, thick with anger. "No. Don't tell him anything yet. I'll handle it. He's still the same gullible boy, he'll believe whatever story I feed him." Something inside me shattered. All those years of her belittling me, mocking every effort, telling me I'd never amount to anything. It wasn't just cruelty. It was calculated. She wanted me small, doubting myself, too blind to notice what was rightfully mine. The stall door creaked open, and Mom stepped out, phone pressed to her ear. When she saw me, she froze. For a split second, her face drained of color. But she quickly replaced it with a brittle smile. "Sweetheart," she said smoothly, slipping the phone into her purse. "I didn't know you were here." I stared at her, my throat tight, the betrayal choking me like smoke. "How long?" My voice cracked. "How long have you known?" Her smile faltered, and for once, she didn't have an immediate answer. That silence told me everything. I had been right. My own mother, my harshest critic, my coldest judge, had hidden the truth of who I was. And worst of all, she wasn't sorry. When I returned to the table, the world felt different. My legs were heavy, my hands still trembling from what I had overheard. Mom sat poised, sipping her wine as if nothing had happened, while Dad quietly folded his napkin, his gaze lost in the candle flame. I slid into my chair, my jaw tight. "So," I said, my voice louder than I intended, "are we going to pretend nothing's wrong? Or should we finally talk about the truth?" Dad's head lifted sharply. Mom's smile faltered. "What truth?" she asked, feigning innocence. "Don't play dumb, Mom," I snapped, the years of her mockery crashing down in waves. "I heard you in the restroom. You've known all along. About this place. About me." The table went silent. Even the couple dining nearby turned their heads, Dad's brow furrowed, confusion thick in his eyes. "What is he talking about?" Mom let out a shaky laugh. "Oh, sweetheart, he must have misunderstood. You know how emotional he gets. Stop lying." My fist hit the table, rattling the glasses. "All those years you told me I'd never succeed, that I couldn't provide for Dad, that I wasn't good enough. You were hiding this from me. Why?" Her mask cracked. The charm drained from her face, replaced by something colder, sharper. "Because you weren't ready," she hissed under her breath. "And if I didn't keep you in your place, you would have ruined everything." The words cut deeper than any blade. Dad stared at her, stricken. His hand shook as he reached for his glass. "Is this true?" His voice broke. "You knew, all along?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The silence between us was louder than any scream. Dad set his glass down with a trembling hand. His face was pale, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Son," he began, his voice soft but heavy, "there's something you don't know. Something I should have told you years ago." I leaned forward, my chest tight. "What do you mean?" He took a deep, shaky breath. "This restaurant, it wasn't supposed to be a secret. It was meant to be your inheritance." His gaze flickered toward Mom. "Your grandfather, my father, set it up in your name before he passed. He wanted you to have something stable, something no one could take away." The words stunned me. My grandfather, the man I barely remembered, had left this place for me? Dad's voice cracked. "But I was weak. I let your mother handle the paperwork, the finances, everything. I trusted her." He turned his eyes toward her, filled with pain. "And she betrayed both of us." Mom's lips tightened, but she didn't deny it. I sat frozen, my mind spiraling. All those nights I worked myself to exhaustion, all the times I swallowed my pride while she told me I wasn't good enough. I could have stood on my own long ago. Instead, she had chained me in doubt. Dad's hand reached across the table, trembling but steady with intent. "Son, I am so sorry. I should have fought harder for you, for the truth. Can you forgive me?" Tears blurred my vision. My whole life had been built on lies, but this Dad's sorrow, his regret, cut deeper than betrayal. Mom looked away, her silence confirming what we all knew. The fracture between us would never fully heal, and for the first time in years, I realized the choice before me wasn't just about revenge, it was about who I wanted to become. The clinking of silverware and the soft hum of music faded as the waiter approached, balancing an elaborate cake lit with sparklers. Gasps rippled across the dining room as he set it gently before me. The cake was beautiful, but it wasn't the design that made my heart stop. Across the surface, written in shimmering gold icing, were the words, "Welcome home, owner." My throat tightened. I felt the entire restaurant watching me, whispering, staring in awe. But at our table, silence reigned. Dad's eyes brimmed with tears, his lips trembling as though he wanted to speak but couldn't. His hand hovered over mine, hesitant, as if afraid to break the moment. Mom, however, looked stricken. Her face went pale, and for the first time in years, she had no ready smirk, no cutting remark. After a long pause, she forced a fragile smile. "Sweetheart," she whispered, her voice shaking, "please, you have to understand. I was only protecting you. You weren't ready. You still aren't. But I never meant to hurt you." Her words hit like knives. Protect me? By burying me in doubt? By convincing me I was worthless? My whole body trembled with the weight of years wasted under her shadow. Dad's voice broke through, thick with sorrow. "Son, I know I failed you too. I should have told you the truth. But I was too afraid of the fights, afraid of losing what little peace we had left." He lowered his gaze, ashamed. "But I can't stand by anymore. You deserve to know everything. And you deserve to choose." The word hung heavy in the air. Choose. I looked at them, Mom with her desperate, fearful eyes, Dad with his guilt and regret, and felt torn in two. My heart ached for the family I had always wanted, but the reality before me was fractured beyond repair. For so long, I had lived for their approval. For so long, I had begged silently to be seen. But tonight had shown me something terrifying and liberating. I didn't need their permission anymore. Tears burned in my eyes as I whispered, almost to myself, "Do I cling to what's broken, or do I finally stand on my own?" The room held its breath, waiting for my answer. I didn't answer them that night. Instead, after the last plates were cleared and the restaurant emptied, the manager approached me with a small envelope. His tone was respectful, almost reverent. "This was left for you years ago, sir. Your grandfather instructed us to deliver it on the night you were formally recognized as owner." My hands shook as I opened the brittle paper. Inside was a handwritten letter, the ink faded but strong enough to carry his voice across time. "My dearest grandson, if you are reading this, it means you have stepped into the truth I left for you. This restaurant, this dream, belongs not to your parents, not to anyone else, but to you. I built it in your name because I saw in you what others chose to ignore: potential, resilience, and a heart that would one day lead with compassion, not greed. You will be betrayed, my boy, by those closest to you. But betrayal is not the end, it is a test. You must decide who you will become when the world shows you its darkest face. Will you answer with bitterness, or with strength? Remember this always: your worth is not given by others. It has always been yours." Tears blurred my vision as I folded the letter, clutching it against my chest. I turned back to the table where my parents sat in silence. Dad looked broken, his eyes full of regret but also of hope. Mom's face was unreadable. Anger, fear, perhaps even shame flickered there, but she said nothing. For the first time, I didn't feel small under their gaze. I didn't feel like the boy who could never measure up. I felt free. I stood tall, my voice steady. "You were wrong, Mom. You told me I couldn't afford Dad's birthday dinner. But tonight, the world reminded me of something greater. I can afford to walk my own path. With or without you." Dad's tears finally fell, but there was pride in his eyes too. Mom turned away, her silence louder than any scream. As I left the restaurant, the night air cool against my face, I realized this wasn't just an ending, it was a beginning. The truth had broken me, but it had also set me free.